Welcome to the Reasonable Southerner podcast. The South isn't all magnolias in the moonlight, but neither is it all racism and violence. We are just like you. My name is Frances Coleman. I share my insights about my life and yours. It's a hashtag, a charitable foundation, the slogan on thousands of t-shirts, and the subject of God only knows how many quotes. Never forget. As in, never forget what happened to the United States 20 years ago on September the 11th, 2001. And how could we forget? Our nation was attacked by terrorists who smashed 2 planes into the World Trade Center, a third one into the Pentagon, and a fourth one into a field in rural Pennsylvania. Experts believe the fourth one was headed for the U.S. Capitol or the White House when passengers stormed the hijackers and the plane went down near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, about 240 miles northwest of Washington, D.C. Americans invoke the never forget mantra every September when the anniversary rolls around, so obviously we haven't forgotten. Just as obviously, however, we must be misremembering it, to recall one of President George W. Bush's made-up words, because we apparently cannot recall the legacy of that terrible day. Never forget would be more accurately rendered, usually forget. We Americans, just like the rest of the world, forget all kinds of tragedies, wars, and conflicts. The fact that most of these things fade after a generation or two is the norm and not an exception. I haven't strolled around a high school campus and asked young people there about forgotten history. In the first place, you can't just walk onto a high school campus anymore, and the people I'd find there would probably be disinterested in talking to me. Still, if I could, here's what I'd ask. What's the significance of December the 7th? I bet more than a few would not know. Those who are clever and quick with mental arithmetic might tell me 18 shopping days till Christmas. What about the 8th of January, September the 1st, 1939, June the 6th, or September 2nd, 1945? Does the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month mean anything to you? If you don't know those dates, that's okay. Studying history is not the silly stuff like what happened on what date. That kind of history teaching is, or should be, confined to high school coaches who don't have the background to teach math or grammar. Remember the important things. Common terror brings people together. If you recall what happened on the shores of Tripoli, you know that. Making war on a foreign despot was just as popular in the time of naval hero Stephen Decatur as it was after 9/11. Every generation or so, we switch up and find new events to remember, events that should bind us together. Unity should be the message of 9/11. We were brought together by the realization that hostile forces wanted to kill us, and that they had the means to do it. The legacy of the day on which nearly 3,000 people died was supposed to be a renewal of patriotism and the civic fabric that binds us to one another. We were going to never forget what true heroism looks like. We were going to never forget what it means to love our country and respect one another. We don't celebrate the anniversary of the Battle of New Orleans anymore. It was a holiday whose hero was a decidedly Democratic and Southern Andrew Jackson. That holiday went out in 1861. In the popular mind, that's the same way we have forgotten Pearl Harbor, the beginning and ending dates of World War II, and the anniversary of the Normandy invasion, and the date and time of the armistice ending World War I. We've forgotten what it means to be a patriot. Disagreements have to be divisive, violent, and threatening. If you don't agree with me, they say, you aren't a patriot. Nonsense. A thinking American with a profound respect for democracy and the rule of law has morphed into a hateful knucklehead who has much more in common with the terrorist who crashed into the World Trade Center than he has a loyal American. Americans are more partisan, divided, and angry than ever. How have we let that happen? Why have we let that happen? And what, if anything, are we going to do about it? Oh, sure, there was plenty of partisanship before that day, and plenty of division and anger, too. Remember the presidential election of 2000 and how it had to be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court? Somehow, though, the degree of division and the tone of the angry partisanship were different. You could dislike President Bush, you could even hate him and call him terrible names such as idiot, imbecile, and some that I can't repeat here. Plenty of people detested him, as well as some or all of the 9 Supreme Court justices and the majority of their senators and representatives. Yet we could sit down at family dinners, attend cocktail parties, and have a beer with friends without fear that a shouting match would break out. We would watch the State of the Union regardless of whether we voted for the man in the office, because we respected the office itself. More important, we respected our country. We believed that the rest of the world respected it too, and that they looked to America to uphold the ideals of democracy. Pardon my plain English, but what the hell has happened to us? Or more precisely, what the hell have we allowed to happen to ourselves and thus to our country? We do a terrible disservice to the memories of the people who died on September the 11th, 2001, if we let ourselves sink into the muck of bitter and combative division. When we can't even talk about issues with one another, we insult the memories of the police officers and firefighters who died when they rushed into the Twin Towers to save as many people as they could. Even now, 20 years later, first responders are dying from cancers and lung diseases caused by the smoke and ashes they inhaled in the aftermath of those attacks. And this is how we thank them, by failing to honor their sacrifices? Is it really too much trouble to refrain from attacking one another when we don't agree? Is it really so hard to listen to another person's views on controversial issues, abortion, health care, immigration, climate change, etc., without attacking the person himself? Or have we gotten so lazy, undisciplined, and reactive that we won't even try to treat our fellow Americans with respect? Our legal system and the republic that came to be in the wake of an age of enlightenment changed the basic structure of governance in the Western world. The idea of government that was born then is grounded in the simple notion that ideas must be respected. The protections of the Constitution are there to protect unpopular ideas especially. The men who created our system of government got that. They understood how hard it would be to actually uphold a system that rewards dissent and takes a decidedly jaded view of despots, demagogues, and the weaklings who follow them. More than 200 years ago, Benjamin Franklin told a crowd of people gathered outside Independence Hall that the founders had given them a republic if you can keep it. God help us if we forget what he said then and what we promised ourselves we would never do after 9/11. I'm Frances Coleman. I've worked for newspapers for more than 45 years, from Texas to my native Louisiana, and finally to my home near Mobile, Alabama. I've been a reporter, an editorial writer, a columnist, and an editorial page editor. I've commented on the BBC, been a guest on the Rachel Maddow Show, and had my column distributed nationwide. If you like this podcast, please follow it. It's free, and even if you don't like it, I hope you'll find it thought-provoking.